Greetings, humanity, and welcome to Channel Otherdoc. I am Jim, your friendly Lacuna GM. I use he/him pronouns, and this is our campaign of Invisible Sun, a development session thereof, the Edge of Paradox. Invisible Sun is a surreal slice of life game by Monte Cook Games. We are integrating the directed campaign, but most of this game happens spontaneously. I'm very excited because these are one of my favorite things to do with Invisible Sun is to do the one-on-one stuff. So let us introduce our player today. We have today Djinnaya. Hello.
Hello. My name is Djinnaya, and I use she/her pronouns. And I am playing Gamelon, who is an established gallant of the Order of Makers.
Excellent.
I almost said itinerant, and I was like, no, that's not me.
No worries. We had a couple of itinerants or itinerant adjacent folks. But in the before we dive in here, once again, as a reminder, like we do with most things on this channel, we're going to be using the X card, the N card, and the O card. So if we hit something that's crossing a line for one of us, any of us can type an X in the Zoom video chat or anywhere else, or hold up a card or make an X symbol, and we'll go back and do something else. If something happens that we're okay having in the game, but we don't want a graphic description of it, we can type an N in the Zoom chat and we'll fade to black on it or put it behind a veil so it'll be there, but we won't go into detail. Finally, if we're exploring a topic or an area of roleplay that's particularly intense for us, but we want to keep going, we can put an O in the chat to let us know that we're okay and that we're all good to keep piling on the drama. Something else we can do is put an O with a question mark after it when we're moving into a difficult topic, or if we say or we do something and then think, maybe that might have been a bit too much, then each the other can respond to that again with an X and N or an O to let us know if we're still doing okay. We're also using the pause. If either of us needs to take some time, we can ask for a pause in the game while we discuss things or just take a break for as long as we need. As a reminder, just a few content warnings. This game may contain body horror, surreal imagery, spiders, snakes, and references to memory loss, death, and existential crises. At any time, you can type !ISCW in the chat there to see that content warning pop up. I'm also going to go ahead and add it as a timer right now, so that will pop up regularly. There we go. And also, please remember that we have an open door policy, which means that either of us and any of you can feel free to step away from this at any time if we need to. It is just a game, and mental health is always more important. So, we are back in Saturnine. We have managed, after some time, the Eternal Party was able to link up back to its original site in Saturnine, one of its original entry sites, and you can now come and go from that to various places, if need be. So for the first time in a little while, it's really only been like about a week or so in game time. But time, what is it? Who knows?
A flat circle.
It is indeed a flat circle. But so we've got some things that to do now. Now that you are back, now that Shah is back, and so I've got. So there are a few different. I've got some things, but but mostly what I sort of divided it up into is we've got some sort of bookkeeping type stuff to do. And we've also got some potential in-character stuff to do. Did you have a preference as to which sort of thing you wanted to tackle first?
No, I don't have a preference. So I'm fine to start with anything. I don't know if you had an order of operations you wanted things to go in.
Not especially, but I'm going to look at the first thing and just start talking then if we want to do that.
All right, let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine Shah came back home to like a pile of mail and probably spent about 3 days not leaving her house.
Yes.
I think she just, like didn't even get to the mail, just kind of went into her house and worked in the forge and kind of like spent some time alone, because that was a lot.
Yes.
I think she's not a great traveler, as it turns out.
Yeah, there were a few messages. There were also some message shells that showed up. Message shells, tubes, cylinders, message cylinders that showed up. Apparently, I'm very sorry to say you missed the neighborhood presentation.
No. Shucks. Gosh.
Yes.
Karen's
Darn it.
gonna be so disappointed.
Yes. So very disappointed. But there'll be. And, you know, they're the only other sort of, you've been getting sort of, there's these shells have, these shells. Why am I calling them shells? It's because, I'll tell you exactly why I'm calling them shells. It's by accident, and it's because there's an episode of the Tick cartoon that played in the 90s that hasn't left my head yet. They had a secret message shell that you would load into a cannon and launch it out of the cannon. This is a pneumatic tube, however, so it is a cylinder. So yeah, you would. There are a few notices that they're apparently having trying to do sort of coffee after service coffee meetings. You've been getting some notices for after service coffee meetings happening at the just down the street at the Church of Stasis. But that's been it mostly. Aside from you know the neighborhood presentation announcements. There are a couple of things. I was thinking maybe of looking just real quick at a couple of the bookkeeping things first, as you've been busy working and sorting some things out. So I think we want to talk about a little bit about the crux advancements for your Testament of Sons.
Okay.
For folks wondering, that's this thing, basically. That yes, excellent. High five. That basically accompanies the Vizsla on their journey to self-realization. So you have there's a level 2 ability that it is getting and a level 3 ability that it is getting, and that I, the GM, am supposed to assign to it. And here's what I've come up with. You can tell me what you think of this. Okay. I think that the abilities that will manifest themselves as you are sorting this out and just sort of looking at things and trying to actually get your affairs in order. The first one, the level 2 ability that's going to come out, I think is going to interact with your cage. And it will become... this is something that would normally be a higher level, except I'm tying it to the cage, so I'm bumping it down to 2. You'd be able to project an image of whoever is in the cage that would allow a couple of things. It's an image with sound. It can be life-size. And you can either use it for illusory purposes, or you can use it so that other people can communicate with them if you want. If you want to show everyone who's in your cage.
I love that.
And you want multiple people to get in on the inquiries of people in the cage, to get in on the interrogation or what have you. That basically will allow that. So that if you so desire, you can have people help you with your, ultimately, I mean, with your interrogation roles if you want. If you decide to open up that much to them, but that's, that process, but that's entirely up to you how you want to do that.
Okay.
So that would be the level 2 ability. The level 3 ability is a bit subtler. And that's something you're I think you kind of ended up, would have ended up sort of figuring, I don't know. something might have happened with just sort of that might have allowed it if you were looking at some of playing with the neighborhood birds or other animals or things showing up or something that turn up. If you wanted to experiment that way, or whatever, cockroaches, who knows? That for a moment you can use your Testament of Suns as a level 3 ability to try to slow somebody down. Presumably tying into the idea that if they're moving, if you slow them down, you can catch them more easily.
Right.
But what this does in game terms is they lose a round of action.
Okay.
And when you use it, it's kind of like going into that slow motion mode that you experienced briefly on the train when you were fighting the paper jaguar. And you do hear the ticking sound when you use it. But it'll basically then just sort of make it so that if there's still a roll involved. It's a level, but this is 3 levels toward that.
Okay.
And it's basically a thing that'll take away their action. Do those sound
Those
decent?
sound great. Yeah.
Okay. So those are your crux advancements. I wanted to talk a little bit about your character arcs. Now, right now, do you just have the one arc of growth?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. Let me go ahead and pull that up just a bit so we can see where you are, because I want to make sure that you've been getting your acumen for it.
I think that we went over it and gave me acumen for everything except for the last step.
Okay. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. Growth. Okay. So we already went over points of change that you would have each gotten an acumen for, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so if we did that, did we do overcoming an obstacle? Where you have the temptation to resort to your old ways being present. Did we talk through that?
We did, but I can't remember
I feel as though
what it was.
that's been
I think
happening.
there was like a moment where Shaw had sort of a choice between sticking with her friends or going with the makers. And a lot of that kind of went around her siding against Gilda.
Yeah.
And saying even though Gilda is my only real means of advancement within the social structure of the makers, I'm going to stick with my friends instead.
Yeah. Was that before or after you found out that she had stolen your stolen your design?
It was before.
Okay, so it was when you decided to head maybe when you decided to head off on the trip with your friends, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you think that was kind of when it was? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so you got 2 acumen for that, and then the climax we have here, self-evident change. So do we think that we've hit that at this point?
So
I think we may have.
I think we may have. And I think part of this is just that for the longest time, all of Shaw's interactions with the rest of the group were really around sort of this very poised, I don't know how to explain it, but she was kind of doing the thing that she had anticipated doing. Everything was a strategy move. Everything was like, what is the move to be your friend? And then I think especially when Shantano went and released this void demon, and Shaw really had this moment of, I don't know if I can stand by you anymore. And Shantano was like very clearly on a different side. And Shaw really had this moment of understanding that she needed to stand by her friends, but that she needed to voice her opinion, that she needed to be able to say, this is what I feel is right. I'm with you, but I can't be with you in that way. And it became more of a bond of friendship where she trusted that no matter where she went, that bond would remain.
Yes. Yeah, no, I remember that. I remember that moment very clearly. So yeah, and definitely. Okay. So, what that means then is that you have this self-evident change, where this is not what the previous you would have done. And so that gets you 3 acumen and 1 joy.
3.
In and of itself, the climax does. And we're basically at the point of resolution. You recognize the change in yourself and move forward. So, in what way? What is Shah doing to move forward at this point?
Well, I think, in the very first session that we had, we went to this festival and Shah asked, where do I belong? She was really looking for a place that she belonged. She was an EMT in the military in her shadow life, and she felt very part of something. And when she moved back into the actuality, what kept calling her back to the shadow was this feeling of having a place and a group she belonged in. And at some point, when she asked the oracle what it was going to be, she saw 2 things. And one was this room with dolls, dusty dolls in it. And one was the group of people that she was standing there with that she had just met. Mm-hmm. And I think that in this moment of shifting and changing, she starts to understand that this group that she is with is not just a group that she belongs with, but it's like family. It's not like a military crew. Like for her, it becomes this thing like family, where she knows she can go away. She knows she can differ. She knows she can be not perfect. She knows they can be not perfect. And she really sort of recommits herself to that group as family, with sort of this feeling like it will always be there. I keep thinking when like you hang out with meditation people, like we say that when you take a moment and recognize your breath, you realize all the time your breath was breathing that you weren't paying attention. And I think she understands that her connection to these people is like that. There's nothing she has to do for it anymore. It just is always there.
Yeah. Perfect. And I think that we're going to see, So we're definitely at that point, I think, that resolution is happening. If not even right this moment, then by the end of this session, because of a thing.
Yes, the thing. The stuff. Yes.
There's a thing. So
yeah, I don't know if you want to go there next or if you want to do the.
I feel like. So, do we want to? We can do the thing, and then if you want afterward, we can talk about your next arc, or if you'd like, we can talk about your next arc now, and then worry about the thing afterward. What do you think?
Oh, well, I'm really excited about my next arc, so let's talk about my next arc.
Let's talk about your next arc.
So the next arc that I would like to get is the Train a Creature arc. And I'm not really set on how this kicks off and comes into being. But, Shah was really attached to Blued, this cat outside, for a little bit. And I think that in realizing that, she kind of realized that there was something that was missing in her life. And then when they were in Yesterdale and she saw the mayor and the dog with one giant eyeball, I think that she realized that that's what she's missing, is a companion. But like family is great, but she needs a companion so that she doesn't put too much strain on her new family. But Shah being Shah is not quite sure where to start, and for sure it's not going to be I'm going to a pet store. It's it's going to be, I trust the universe to bring me this thing. And my idea is that it will probably be something that is likely a bad idea. Like that is my thought, is that whatever it's going to be is likely going to be a bad idea.
Ah, excellent. Well then, let's consult the universe, shall we? Really? Really, universe? This is what you give me? Okay. I just consulted the universe. Hang on a second.
What did the universe say?
The universe tells me something interesting. Let me go ahead and pull it up here. So the universe has given me card number 41, the Jackal.
Oh, I love it. What a great card.
Let me pull up the Jackal here. Let's see. So, as a reminder for folks, it's been a little while. Its meanings are intimidation, power, ruthlessness, dark magic, and necromancy. This intimidating fellow is a dread figure, to be certain. The Jackal represents everything nuns fear about Vizsla. Threatening displays of destructive power, dark, soul-twisting spells, ruthless, unforgiving magic that taps into death, demons, and worse. Power for power's sake, he is a selfish, megalomaniacal figure, willing to do whatever it takes to get what he wants. The Jackal is the nemesis of the Mysteries family. Many believe, however, that he is a literal being and not just a symbol on a card. Some believe all the royalty cards show real immortal beings. If he is real, he is some kind of diabolic figure that not only uses dark magic, but offers it to others, willing to use his methods. In divination, while most see the Jackal as a dire omen of dark magic and ruthlessness, some embrace the power he represents. To be certain, this card turn can be a threat, or it can be an offer. The person in question may want to take precautions against the effects of hexes or other dangerous magic, the intervention of demonic spirits, or simply an angry Vizsla. The Jackal can, in some instances, be equated to any figure in power, not just magical power or authority, but even then, usually only to a ruthless or intimidating figure. So, let's see.
I can't see a better idea for a destructive. I mean, to be fair, the beginning of that sounds like the last cat that I own, so that seems kind of on par.
Yeah, I mean, you know. Okay. So, we have some interesting things that are showing up here. Let's see. How does now this kind of a decision is one that taking care of a pet is a very, very big responsibility. So I think that the next time that you head out of your mine, here's what I currently have. It's a here's my current thought. Oh wait, no, you're right. Do we want something? See, my first thought actually echoes something someone else in the party has. So I'm trying to figure, do we want something that's more unique, or it echoes in it a certain way. Let's see. Okay.
Well, so here's what I would love. I would love for it to be a creature that is an actual creature.
Yes.
That is external. That's not like a small thing that Shaw can put in her pocket. That's maybe a little bit unwieldy.
Yes.
And I really love the Jackal card sort of insinuating that it's this creature of dark magic and necromancy when Shaw is all about protection and angels. I think that's, I have visions of Shaw being like, no, drop it, put the hex down, drop it.
Do you enjoy, So yeah, so my thought involves whether you would enjoy okay. So here I'm gonna break this down into three choices, right?
Okay.
A flying thing, a running thing, or a burrowing thing.
I think a running thing.
Running thing. Okay. So. I'm trying to decide where it is that. Let us see. Where is Shaw going to find this creature? Is Shaw going to find this creature on her way to, say, this meeting, or is she going to sort of wander around somewhere? In particular, with sort of the thought of just running into a creature in mind, or do you try to just sort of forget about it and do other things? What is our approach here?
Well, she has kind of a couple different things that she needs to be doing right now, work-wise, and I sort of like the idea that maybe she's looking for ingredients because she needs to make things for her, future upgrade.
Yes.
And so I like the idea that maybe she's kind of on the edge of Fartown, where it spreads into the Fade. And so she's kind of in the magically dangerous part of town, and maybe she finds it there.
Okay. Now that works. Here, let me open up that part of the thing here. I have, as it happens, I have a book open. I just need to go to the correct portion of Fartown. Here we go. So you're at Fartown, so sort of near the edge where the bleed starts.
Yeah, the bleed, not the Fade.
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, no worries. Yeah, no, yeah. Believe me, I would not be saying the right word unless I had the map directly in front of my eyeballs right now. Unless, yeah. I would not be saying the right word if I did not have the map right in front of my eyeballs right now. So there is a, so you've been gathering resources. There is actually a, yeah, there's a little shop, run by a maker you're familiar with, Kayana, who sells a bunch of stuff for makers, basically, and so it's and so probably so she probably she has so you probably have been not too far from where she's sort of has set up shop. I feel like she sets up shop probably out of amusement's sake. She probably sets up shop. I imagine she perhaps can move it. She's moved to different shops from time to time, to different locations from time to time. But as I was just sort of looking, she probably would want to be not far. She's probably not far from the Artist Commune, somewhere between the Artist Commune and the False Arch, because the False Arch is like a tourist spot also people sort of go to sometimes. So you're sort of on the western end of the bleed. Or western, where the bleed starts. Western end of Fartown, where the bleed starts. So I think that it is a strange thing where you're where she's perhaps like half a block back, still sort of sitting in her it's sort of her enclosure that she's set up. I'm imagining a sort of a kind of a thing that's halfway between a booth and a proper store. Basically, okay. So she's got like an awning and stuff like that. She sort of had yelled something after you a little bit, just to be careful. So there's like a sort of a heap there. That's another thing. There's, I think, a kind of a sort of a scrap heap that's is not far from there, sort of around where the bleed starts. So a lot of the artists will sort of come out from the commune and dump stuff that they're no longer using, for people to pick up or do whatever they want with. And that sort of like, it's an area, it's kind of a fenced-in area, but that's open, people can come and go. But the fence just sort of stops where the bleed starts, kind of halfway through this little junkyard. And you will note, sort of rustling through there's kind of this, what sounds like something rustling through some of the metal piles. Mm-hmm. And this form is sort of, that is kind of like, seems to be, as you sort of look up, this form sort of scampers for a moment from you. It's weird because you can, there are these little scrap piles you can see, sort of half see on the edge of the bleed. Mm-hmm. Right? So they're in it, but they're, where it happens to be one of those tides that have come in, and so it's covering those scrap piles. Tides of clouds are drifted in. You get the distinct sense that there's something looking at you from under one of those shrouded piles.
Okay. I mean, as mentioned, Shaw's had a very good experience with stray cats so far. So, like, that experience brought her much joy. So why wouldn't a stray animal in a junkyard also? And so I think that she'll sort of move a little bit closer and do that weird human thing where you go and see, like, make a little clicky noise and see if anything comes out.
Okay. Well, something's going to come out, obviously. But, how weird do I want to do I want to actually use the animal that's in front of me on this random generator? Do I really? Of course I do. So there's a bit of a sort of a slight pause, and then more shifting, and there's this very sort of tenuous sort of, you hear these what seem like kind of sort of hoof steps almost, as this creature that's about the size of a dog seemingly starts coming forward in the mist, just sort of tentatively. You can see it's a little bit skittish. But what you're seeing is this, basically it's looking, the reason you can see it is because it's looking into this, it's like looking into just darkness, because it's very dark in color.
Okay.
As it sort of...
Is it dark in color, or is it an absence of light?
It's hard to tell.
Okay. All right.
It's like the light does kind of fall into it a little bit.
Okay. Can I tell what it was looking for? Like, does it look like it was looking for food, or?
Yeah, it was looking for some kind of,
like,
it probably was looking for food. it seems to be. Actually, food or warmth, because just of the size of the pile that you're looking at, and what you speculate might be in there.
Okay.
A little bit. I mean, it's a little hard to tell, but yeah, it seemed to be rooting around for something.
Okay. So I have, I don't know if it works. I have this tool bracer. I have this bracer that I'm wearing that can make any object that I need. And I've used it to make an invitation before. Can I use it to make a small piece of meat?
You can.
Okay. I pull a small piece of meat out of this tool bracer and put it flat on my hand. And I say, "Are you hungry?"
It just sort of moves a bit. It sort of moves forward, and you can tell now as it's moving kind of back and forward, it has a slightly longer neck than, say, like a dog would.
Okay.
Typically. And it's very, as it steps forward, it's sort of very cautiously, it's, you can tell it's actually very fuzzy.
Oh.
It's made of this. It's like it's this little sort of thing of fuzzy darkness that is stepping forward. This patch of fuzzy darkness.
Okay. I hold my hand out further so it's far from me and see if it's interested in the meat.
So it will skitter forward. As it does so, you're starting to, you feel your hair standing up a little bit, just a little bit, as it gets closer. And it's almost like it's like there's a light buzzing sound very far away in the background as it gets closer. And so it's now just sort of right on the edge of the bleed. And so it looks about the size of a dog. It looks kind of alpaca-like.
Okay.
Looks like a mini. It looks like a pygmy alpaca, basically.
Alpaca. All right.
Type deal.
And dark fuzzy
pygmy alpaca. His eyes start glowing blue as it leans forward out of the bleed. It's just sort of its neck, and it very cautiously lean forward to try to grab the meat with its teeth.
Okay.
Knowing that alpaca should not be meat eaters, but this, whatever it is.
All right.
As it does so, you feel a slight electric shock.
Oh.
As it nips the meat out of your hand.
Oh, aren't you special?
And then just sort of scampers over. It doesn't go further into the bleed. It actually comes out. It scampers over a little bit and around over to one of the another sort of nearby pile of stuff. There's like actually, strangely enough, a pile of dinner plates. Sort of someone has made a little fortress out of dinner plates that it sort of heads over to and starts sort of examining the meat and kind of gnawing on. And it sort of looks sort of gnaw on it and sort of should be shaking a little bit, looking over at you, and it goes.
Oh, you poor thing. Are you cold? You might be cold.
And it will sort of just be, it makes very, very fast work then of the meat.
Okay. Is it shivering like it's cold, or is it shivering like it's terrified of me?
It's a little uncertain. It's like it's a little uncertain. This is probably the first thing it's had to eat in a while. And so once it has it, and it's like, you see the eyes glow again. You see this little bit of blue electricity crackle up and down it for just a second, and it seems that it's doing a little bit better.
Okay.
But it's probably a little bit cold. You think it was probably looking for energy now that you see what properties it has.
Oh.
Actually, probably more than anything else.
So electricity.
So it probably didn't matter if what you're remembering about your basic magical exchange theory is correct. That it doesn't really matter what you give it to eat as long as it's something that would have some kind of representational energy.
Okay.
Connected to it. So the fact that you gave it meat was kind of immaterial. It
Right.
could have been anything.
Okay.
If this is a strange being, it's perhaps, we don't know if it's of the void. It looks
Surely not.
void-like.
It's so cute. It can't possibly be such a thing.
Can't possibly be of the void.
Absolutely
no, that would be
not.
ridiculous.
That would be ridiculous. It's fuzzy, Jim. It's
That's right.
Fuzzy. Okay. Well, I think that Shaw is, after like kind of sitting on the ground and watching it for a while, she'll pull out her viewfinder and sort of like capture an image of it, so that she has the image in case she needs it later, and then she'll kind of say, okay, stay, I'll be back, stay. And then I'll head out of the scrap heap and go to kind of the closest place and try to figure out what would have the most energy that I could find that it could eat. Like whether, like I imagine that, I mean, Shaw's not going to feed it a live creature, obviously. And like whatever the meat was that she had, like that's not going to be her first direction. Whatever meat she had would have been sort of like the synthetic meat kind of thing, because it was made from her wrist. So I think that maybe if there's a shop in Fartown that sells plants, maybe she would go and get plants, figuring that actual living things would have more energy than harvested things.
Okay. Yeah, that's not a problem. Again, you're very close to an artist commune, so I'm quite sure that there's a plant shop nearby.
Okay.
So yeah, you can go and grab. What are you looking for? Something fruit bearing, or are you just looking for?
I think probably something fruit bearing.
Yeah.
I think Shaw will walk in and be like, is this poisonous to creatures? And sort of collect them from there.
Yeah.
She's got maybe like 4 plants in her arms. Are these poisonous?
Would you like them to be?
No, I would
Okay.
prefer if they were not poisonous.
Okay, that's this.
Well, thank
you. As they direct you to the non-poisonous things. For some reason, they put all the poisonous stuff out front. We're not sure why.
Because Fartown.
Because Fartown. And so you have these non-poisonous plants, fruit-bearing plants, that you're bringing out, and you see as you turn around and you head back in the direction of the fenced-in area, you see that it's been following you.
Oh.
It's just sort of standing there near not far from the fenced-in area, but it's sort of looking in your direction. It's like,
I thought you might like these better than the meat. So she'll come over and, I mean, how close can I get?
How close would you like to get?
Well, I'd like to walk up to it.
I don't think that'll be a problem.
Okay. So I walk up pretty closely and I set the plant that has the big kind of giant blueberry looking things on it in front of it. Say,
okay.
What do you think?
And it'll just be like so you have, I'm sorry, so which you have a blueberry looking thing, you have what else?
Oh, I don't know. We said 4 plants. So I have
you just offer the blueberry looking
giant
thing,
blueberry looking thing.
Okay.
Sort of a topiary thing in the shape of a tetrahedron.
Ooh, okay.
And then one thing that's more like a pine tree, but it has sort of these, instead of pine cones, they're sort of translucent pine cones. And that's 3. One thing that's like a kind of pumpkin vine type thing, but the pumpkins are white.
I'm gonna send you an image really quickly that I just found.
Okay.
That I think will help. Kind of something along those lines, but smaller.
I love it.
Maybe a little bit fuzzier.
I love it.
But yeah, so the here, let me put a random link in the chat real quick if folks want to see the image I just found. But in any case, yeah, so yeah, that kind of thing. So yeah, it'll look at it'll munch a little bit more toward the topiary looking thing.
Okay.
It seems to like. Does it actually? Is it in the frame? Or
no, it's like grown into it, but it's I mean, yeah, there's probably like a metal thing that it's inside of.
Just sort of reaches forward and it starts gnawing on it, and then it starts gnawing into the metal.
Oh.
As well, which the metal gives it a little bit more trouble than the plant matter, but it seems to be biting into it just fine.
Oh. Does it seem to like the metal best?
It's very, yeah, it actually, once it does that, there's this little spark and it's like, it gets a little excited and starts gnawing more on the metal.
Oh. You ate metal.
Seems to like the metal. Okay. Well, it wasn't touching a lot of the metal in the scrapyard, necessarily, but it could be because you've been moving this piece of metal around, perhaps.
Oh. I'm gonna pull out, I have like some iron keys that I picked up that are not wicked keys that I picked up from the key fob.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull out 2 and I'm gonna rub them together to kind of create like a magnetic charge.
Yeah, you immediately get its attention. It's like its eyes start glowing.
And then once they're good and going, I'll kind of set it on the ground and in front of it.
Once again, bobs its head down. It gnaws on the keys. So it picks them clean of all of their potential energy.
I love it.
Little bits of static erupt up and down its fuzziness. It gets fuzzier a little bit as it does so. And then it just sort of, you see the hair sort of settles down and it looks back up again after it's eaten the key. It's eaten one of the keys. It actually has left the other one. But it is the other key looks very clean, and it looks up and just sort of looks at you and goes, meh.
Do you feel better? Well, I guess you don't need these other plants. No, we could take them home. I don't know what to do with you? I think that she'll at first kind of try and take it back into the scrapyard. And maybe if I can, use a little bit of sortilege, I'll kind of create a charge to some of the metal piles for him.
Oh yeah, no, they'll totally go after anything that you start charging.
Okay, and then I'll see once he's doing that if I can reach out and pet him.
Yeah, it's an interesting sensation. At first, there's a little bit of a sort of the hair stands up a little bit, and there's a tiny bit of a jolt the first time, but then just sort of it just sort of you shocked it a little, while it was because it wasn't expecting it, but then you sort of very gingerly sort of pet it, and it is like. So it is very soft. It is very soft. And, but it's also, it's funny because as you run your hand through it, you do feel, again, it's this little electrical sensation, of the sort of the hair standing up a little bit, as you do so. This creature has a lot of static electricity about it, just sort of in general. But especially while it's eating, you think there's little rivulets of electricity are coursing around it, as it's absorbing the energy. It doesn't hurt, right? It's not like, right. So like, most with static electricity, it's like if you're going to be, it's, if you're constantly touching, then that's not a problem, basically.
Right.
So, it's just, you can sort of feel it, right? That sort of, that potential, that little bit of electricity, just sort of as you touch it, a slight teeny crackling. You touch this very, very soft, furry creature.
And then I think that she'll probably be a little bit sad, but she won't want to make it leave its place. Like she doesn't know how to take care of it, and so like she'll get up after a while and pick up the plants that it's not into. Be like, leave it the metal topiary. Be like, okay, well, I gotta go, but I'll come back. And she'll turn to walk away.
I love that Google Meet translated that as okay. So you turn and you walk away. And after a few moments, few seconds, you realize that it's trying to follow you.
Oh, I don't know that you want to come all the way back to the mine with me. I mean, you can, I guess. Well, I don't know. So she'll kind of like say, no, you stay, and turn to walk away. But if it follows her more than once, she's gonna have like no wherewithal.
Let's see if it continues to try to follow you or not.
Okay.
Or if it obeys your instruction. I'm going to draw another card. Oh dear. Okay. Yeah. No, I think I know the answer immediately to this.
Oh, what's the card?
Okay. So I have drawn card number 11, the Raven. the just as a bit of a reminder, is that companion to the secrets family. Its meanings are sight, jealousy, and trickery. The raven sees everything and tells nothing. The raven is smarter and wiser than it ever lets on. Its intelligence, however, manifests in its crafty solutions to problems. Some might use the word cheating, in fact. The raven's weakness is greed and jealousy. It wants what you have, and that probably means your secrets. Can you keep them from its watchful eyes? Is it even worth trying? In divination, the raven has both positive and negative connotations. Most commonly, it indicates that someone is watching, jealous, usually someone unexpected. It's also a warning to beware of greed and trickery. On the positive side, however, it advises vigilance or suggests that there's a trick involved in what one must do to succeed. Either means that there's a problem that can be overcome. So I feel that what this means is that it will not obviously follow you. It will appear to remain in the junkyard per your instructions.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. She's like, very good. Stay. I will come back with scrap metal. This is going to be great. And then she will head all of the way back home.
Yes. And it will, I think that it's probably very good at staying out of sight when it needs to be. So you're probably, I think at least for a little bit, you're probably not going to notice it until you head back to the junkyard next time. Probably, I think.
Okay.
I think that depending on what happens.
All right.
You might. Because let's face it, I mean, it's depending on how much time passes, it's going to give itself away sooner or later. But
that's true. That's true.
But I think it depends. So if you wait more than a day before you go back to the junkyard, you'll probably start noticing it.
Like hanging around.
Or hanging out, looking for scraps of energy.
Yep, Karen's gonna love that.
Yes,
that's gonna be fantastic.
An absolutely approved pet.
Yes, totally approved pet.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if it just kind of, because I don't think it would come inside. It sounds like it wouldn't come inside, but it would hang out around. And so I think that as soon as Shaw noticed it, it would kind of become a thing where sort of her relaxation was coming out, electrifying little bits of metal in the metal shop and then bringing it out in a basket. Yeah. And, but I think they kind of have their distance. And I think just for arc purposes, that's a really good place to leave that.
Yeah.
For the start of the arc.
Yeah. And it is. It's very much an outdoor pygmy void alpaca. I
love it.
So it's no, not void. Totally not void.
No.
Totally not a void creature. But yes. So it's like after a day or two, you'll probably have figured it out. At least, if not sooner. I mean, it depends. Yeah, if you go out, if you're in your shop, it's gonna be attracted to any kind of activity like that where you're basically generating energy.
Magicking metal. Yeah.
Yeah. That'll definitely do it. Okay. So we have therefore gotten into the so you can, if you wish, pay 3 acumen to train a creature.
All right.
And we've hit the opening where you are getting acquainted.
Okay.
And you're sort of learning how to on kind of how to what it wants. And
yes.
After a day or two, you're going to learn its patterns of where it's going to show up and how to how where it hangs out and that kind of thing. So
Right.
yeah, it'll for the most part it'll probably stick nearby, and there may be points where it does go wandering around the neighborhood a little bit, but for the most part it'll stay nearby.
Okay. Yeah.
But generally out of sight until it until it wants to be seen. Typically, it is
Funny
very
that.
good. You find out at hiding. So anyway,
All right.
so we've got so you have a pet.
Have a pet
and
that is not going to give me any trouble
no,
at all.
none whatsoever. I'm sure
Okay.
it'll be fine.
Yes.
So, yes. I think we can now advance to some other stuff.
Okay.
What we have going on. So, I have two things in front of me that I believe that I believe you had said you'd wanted to tackle. So you have either the invitation, or you have maker advancement, which you want to sort of sort out, or talking to another maker about advancement at the very least, which was something we talked about a little bit. So which one of those would you like to tackle first?
Gosh, I don't know. Yes. I guess if there's not a particular order, I'd like to do the maker advancement first.
Okay. So, the interesting thing, as I have been refamiliarizing myself this week with how the makers operate, and that's that people don't know how they operate, by and large. It's understood that apparently it has secrets. It's known that it has secrets. It's known that the makers are. Let me actually go ahead and reopen the thing I wanted to open, because I realize that's going to come into play now. Yeah, they're going to Here we go. It's known that the Order of Makers is perhaps secretly allied with the Deathless Triumvirate and is responsible for maintaining the very existence of Saturnine. That's something people tend to believe. Some people believe that the Makers made the world. Some people tend to believe that the Makers made Shadow, and the Demiurge, its presumed warden, is actually the head of the Order. They believe that the Makers are very loosely knit as a group. It's more a professional organization than an order. All of these things are things people believe about the Makers.
Right.
What you know more to be true is that they're more like a guild, and they set standards for crafting of objects of power and regulate the buying and selling of those things, and materials, ingredients, and all that. And you're wanting to go from your first degree to the second degree, if I have that correct. So, who do you want to go to? What do you want to do?
So, originally I had been sort of grooming Gilda for this, but obviously that's not great. And because Gilda is so big in the Makers Guild, I'm sort of head shy about just wandering in and finding anyone. But when we visited Grandma and Elise to get the cake, Grandma and Elise were both, are the same person, but both spoke to me about how sometimes hanging out in the Makers Guild could be a bit tiring, and if I ever wanted to come hang out and talk maker things, I could do that. And so I would like to approach them and ask if they would be able to accept my item for my leveling.
All right. So you're going to head down to the. You're going to head down to the home goods store.
Mm-hmm.
And what you will basically get to see, they have quite a lot of different knickknacks in there, all manner of. As I recall, the way that I sort of had set it up, it was very much like every turn of the 20th century bicycle store you see in every movie that is sort of cram-packed with all kinds of things, combined with like the I hesitate to invoke Cracker Barrel, but it's the first thing that comes to mind. It's very folksy looking. Lots of knickknacks all over the place, different things that they make. They basically are in the business of taking ordinary things and making them into extraordinary things. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a card really quickly so we can see, get a little bit of a direction here. Stand by. Why am I only getting terrible cards?
Oh no, because that's the way the Sooth deck works.
It is the way the Sooth deck works. Okay. I decided, uncharacteristically, to try to, I drew a card and then I was like, do we want that one? And so I tried to draw another card. And the interesting thing here, for a given value of interesting, is why am I, the question Jim is asking himself is, why is he drawing so many nemesis today?
Mm-hmm.
He's drawing several nemesis. But actually, no, I can see kind of where I'm gonna go with this one. I'm gonna go with this one. See, at first I drew. The first card I drew was the devil, and I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that to Shah today. Not again. And then
for Grandma and Elsie.
No, we can't do that. And so then, we got card number 29, the Doctor. And that's the one we're going with. Let me make the make sure we're properly aligned there. There we go. Okay, so we drew the Doctor. This won't necessarily be about Grandma and Elsie per se, but it'll be relevant to them at present. As a quick reminder, doctors help, but it's a help we'd rather not need. This is meanings are wisdom, health, dependence on others, and disease. No one wants to see a doctor. We only see them if something's gone frighteningly wrong. They have knowledge, perhaps secret knowledge, and insight few can match. We've actually had this relatively recently in game terms, so I'm not going to go over the whole description. It's a sinister looking card. It can mean health, but it can. There's also always an undercurrent of sort of dependence with it. So, you'll get there, and Elsie is at the counter. at the front counter. I seem to recall, I think I remember describing her as kind of possibly blonde-ish. Did I write her description down? Did I? And the other interesting thing about, by the way, about the fact that I've been actually finally putting all of my my NPCs into a list, is that I actually have 2 NPCs in this game named Elsie. This one is the more recent Elsie that we have met. The previous one was in fact a flying hammerhead shark. But this is, I think it was a hammerhead. I can't remember. A sky shark, basically. Yes, a hammerhead. Yes. This is not a shark. It's a middle-aged woman, dark blonde, long dark blondish hair, who looks very much like Grandma. And so she's there. She's wearing a very sort of simple-looking sort of cottony dress, but it looks like one that she made herself. Because it has like sort of little tassels coming off of it today. And so she helps one of the customers, and she sort of is leaning over, talking to them. No, it'll be fine. Oh, it'll be just fine. I think. Thank you. And she stands up again. She sees Gamelon. Pleasure.
I'll see. Pleasure to see you.
What can I do for you today?
Well,
the other customer heads off. So you've got her to yourself.
Okay. Well, for one thing, I just wanted to chat. I've been traveling with friends, and it's been a long time since I spent any time with makers, and the guild hall isn't feeling super friendly right now to me. And so just kind of wanted to hang out with my own order a little bit.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the guild hall, right. Have you found the secret passageway yet?
No. Is there a secret passageway?
Yes and no. She just
Is
sort
it
of
just a secret passageway everyone knows about?
Kind of, yeah, basically. Yeah. Just sort of goes around on the inside. It's another hallway, pretty much, I think. I don't really use that place for that much, I don't think, these days. But haven't been back in a little while.
Yeah.
Can I get you some tea?
I'd love some tea.
And she will take you into their sort of parlor. There are rocking chairs in the parlor. And she says, and as she goes over and she's making the tea, she says, Grandma's not feeling really well today. She gets bouts of this from time to time. She'll be all right. I think probably within a few days. I think.
I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do to help? Are you okay? I don't know how that works.
No, I'm fine. It's, I don't have to worry about it for a while.
Oh, okay.
For me. It'll be fine.
Got it.
She'll be okay. At least I don't think so. It's kind of weird. It's, you don't need to hear about all that.
You can tell me if you want to. Sometimes it's better to talk about things I hear.
And she'll bring some tea over. It's it's probably sort of a green tea, I think. And she'll sit down on one of the chairs, and she'll say, well, it's I don't suppose you know anything about like parallel timelines, that kind of thing?
I don't know a lot. I have had some exposure to weird time things, but not exactly parallel timelines.
Well, cinematically, we hear the ticking of a grandfather clock getting a little bit louder until quite suddenly it stops getting loud. It's quiet again. No. She'll say, well, it's... I don't know if she's ever going to happen. She's here.
Oh.
But, she might one day. So I try to take care of her best I can. Because this, for all I know, this is like the only version of her I'm going to see, so.
Oh. So, like, at some point, you might end up at the beginning of her timeline at the end of yours.
Well, it's the thing. I think it's... Well, because she's here, so it's going to be different. Probably. I'm not really completely up on how it works, because there's a certain amount of drift involved from what I understand. She's really more the expert on it. She's had more time. But from what she tells me, it's just weird potentialities thing, and I mean, for her, from my understanding, where she came from isn't great. And it's sort of, it's apparently every now and then there are these big events that sometimes will like do away with the current universe and replace it with another universe, from what she says.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Oh, really? Well, she apparently hopped over the last time, one of the last times that happened. Not the last. How did she put it? One of the last times that it happened, apparently she hopped over.
Oh.
But also didn't until we made our connection. It both happened and it didn't happen. It's hard to explain.
That does feel very complicated.
She spins it into stories, usually.
So when these things sort of happen in the now that isn't now anymore, it makes her not well?
Well, she has sometimes, I think sometimes the way she talks about it is that sometimes the old world pulls at her. If that makes sense. Like it gets
kind
closer.
Like Shadow.
Kind of, yeah. But she doesn't go anywhere. She stays here. But it is a little bit like that. It's like sort of part of her has to kind of realign. So it can take a little time. But surely you didn't come over here to talk about temporal theory.
I didn't. I mean, to be honest, I have a favor I need to ask of you.
Oh.
So I don't want to gossip, but I was, it's well past time for me to move into my second degree with the order. But it turns out that the person that I thought might be the person who would accept my item and ceremony for my second degree sort of stole some designs in a way that was rather uncomfortable. and upsetting. And I think maybe she is, to put it mildly, not my friend. And so I'm a bit at a loss because she's friends with many, many people, and I'm not quite sure where in the guild is tremendously safe for me to go. And so I was actually wondering if maybe there wasn't something that you might need that I could present to you in ceremony to sort of get through that formality to be able to move into second degree.
Oh, well, I am no stranger to that problem. There was... So, you may have noticed there are certain items that we make here that, let's just say, certain people who kind of want to create a monopoly aren't necessarily too pleased about the idea that we might be making those things here. And so we kind of try to give some of those people a wide berth. It's something that's it's a very personal and upsetting topic for Grandma, particularly because she was good friends with Miss Trey and Mrs. Trey, and yeah, it was things didn't go well. They kind of had different paths, and it's a little different here and now, but there's still quite a bit of potential animosity.
See.
It will occur to you, because this is someone you'll probably have heard of, is that because you've probably heard of the more famous makers in town, and that she's probably talking about Isabel Trey, who her husband is on the board of the Emotion Mills Consortium.
Yikes.
So there's so that's a thing. And they have a manor over in the Brick House district.
I see.
But yeah. And so she'll say, so if the person you're having problems with is I'm guessing one of that circle, then yeah, I can totally see wanting to circumnavigate that.
Thank you.
Sounds actually kind of serious. Have you thought about bringing it up to anybody? If they actually stole your designs?
Well, I have, but the problem is that I don't remember making the designs. It was before the war. And I don't really know the circumstances around my having made the designs, but I'm pretty sure, given some experiences that I've had with this person, that she does remember. And so there's just a lot for me to work out there. So certainly I need to spend more time around the guild hall to be able to work that out, but also I need to not be doing that while trying to do the social ballet of getting to my next degree.
Okay. I think we can put something together. Certainly.
Is there anything that you need? Could I help with something with Grandma? Like maybe something to anchor her somehow?
Yeah, if you've got, well, if you're familiar with, I mean, if you're familiar with things involving time variations, then I mean, if she says it's okay, then you can take a look and see if there's something you want to try to do.
Well, I was thinking, my specialty is blacksmithing. Maybe I could make something that is iron and sort of grounds her to a time, so that it would help in these moments where she's being pulled away. Out of character, I have no idea what level of spell, what level of item that would be, or what sort of what effect that would be. But I do have this having eaten the enemy of time experience, and then also I have the Book of the Hunter in my possession, which is about these moments where we sort of almost somehow ended the universe and then started over again.
Yeah, that's there are definite things that you've encountered that have a lot going on with them.
Yeah. So I don't have the level of effects table in front of me, nor do I remember what book that's in. Is that in the key?
Level of effects is in, I think. Well, it's also its own thing, but in the GM envelope.
Let's see if I can find it.
It's I have it here. But yeah, it's in the effects by level, I think, is in the way. If you're looking at it book in the book, but otherwise there's a file called level of effects. Yeah.
Right.
If you've got the those of you who have purchased the electronic cube.
Scanning through that right now.
We shall turn in our hymnals to levels of different effects.
Levels of different effects. Moving up to 5 pounds is not going to help. +1 on an insignificant action, not going to help.
So let's see. Stop time for rounds is 10, but I don't think that's exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Travel through time is significant.
I can only make up to a level 4 object, so.
Yeah, time travel is level 12. I think that's where that starts.
Also, no.
You're looking for something that might help a little bit.
Yeah.
Might help a little bit.
Maybe level 3 is wake a sleeping creature. Maybe I could do something like that with time, that it creates sort of a waking up feeling as she starts to sort of drift.
Yeah, you can try to do a variation on that. It's probably not going to have a direct effect on her temporal grounding necessarily, but it'll probably at least help point her in the right direction, I think.
Okay.
Is what I'm thinking. So yeah, you could do something like that. Kind of a you are here beacon type deal.
Yeah. The only other one I can think of is there's a +1 on a significant action ongoing, includes adding 3 bene to a stat pool, which could be +1 to her ability to fight off whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think either one of those would suffice. I think the +1 would be it's. I mean, there's probably a skill of some kind involved with it.
Right.
It's a little nebulous right now, but we can of course figure it out. But yeah, basically something that would and I mean the way the mechanics work, of course, she doesn't roll anything, but we can say that it's basically something that'll sort of help. If you want to do something that's basically, the beacon thing, sort of like the waking and sleeping creature, but slightly more powerful, sounds pretty good. So we could do that as a level 4, if you want to do that, and sort of be sorting that out.
All right.
And we don't necessarily have to start making it right now.
Okay.
But yeah, if you want to go ahead and start drawing up things.
I will start drawing up things. I am
sort of
me, so I will literally start drawing up things. Yeah.
as you start want to sort of figure out how you because largely the chart process. I'm perfectly fine with you making rolls and then just telling me when it comes to this, because it is a process of many steps. But this is essentially
especially at level 4.
As far as this story is concerned, just your offering, I think, is sufficient with just sort of the flow of what we have here. And so, and it's gonna take you a little while to make it anyway. And she's not gonna hold you to a deadline or anything like that. She's not transactional about these things.
Okay.
But yeah, no, she'll she's delighted to have you do that if you want to do that. It takes a little bit. I'll advance things a tiny bit here. It takes a little bit of cajoling. But Grandma eventually agrees to let you do whatever examinations and measurements you need to do to do the thing. You do get a chance to see Grandma briefly in so doing, and she basically, it's a thing where she looks slightly paler than usual. But she tries to put on a very good face and act like she's not sick. Whenever this is the case. And it's not impeding her. She's getting bed rest. You can tell she needs bed rest. But it's kind of analogous to she's caught a cold, basically.
Got it.
Is sort of the way it looks. But it is in fact a temporal cold. And so, therefore, there are variant sneezes as to how this plays out. Anyway, whenever these things happen, but Elsie will be happy to stand for you, and she can put together. She is there are a few others locally that she thinks she could get in on this. A few other makers. If you like, a couple of other makers to kind of, because they want to do something that qualifies as a ceremony. Elsie is, I think, probably 3rd degree, and there are a few others she can kind of see to pull in. A lot of times around here, when they need to do kind of a semi-formal ceremony without going to if they want to do it in this neighborhood without going to necessarily like the guild hall or whatever. Then they usually it'll be done in different places, but more often than not, let me find him. Yeah, they'll do it in the back of Alistair's shop, typically. That's often where these things end up happening because he has the space.
All right.
And he's generally, if you're okay with doing it there.
Yeah, I can't remember the terms that we left on.
You did not buy any shoes from him, but introduced him to the wonders of, there was something he was sort of amazed by, just sort of a shoe concept. I can't remember what it was. That when you left, because you were in there under the pretense of getting over to the looking glass and getting the smaller looking glass out of the bigger looking glass. It's up in Silver Hill, not far from Limerence Street.
But we didn't end on bad terms, right?
No.
Even though I was distracting him while we were up to no good.
Yeah, no, you didn't end on bad terms at all. No, he was kind of bowled over by the whole thing.
Then absolutely. But then that would be lovely.
Okay. So you're able to put together a little, so what you're able to do is within a few days, you're going to have a ceremony over there, in his back room. He'll be happy to do that. Let's see. I just want to see who can we get to attend. I mean, it'll be fine if it's just him and Elsie. But let me see if there's anyone else that Kiona will come. She'll come. I am going to draw a card, however, because there's a thing that I just want to check on.
Okay.
There's someone else that might show up, and I want to see if they do. Or let's see who, if anyone, might also show up. I'm going to draw this card now. Let's see if we've gotten through all the nemesis. Well, it's not a nemesis card. Let's see. Actually, this is... Nah. The funny part is there are a number of different people this could be. So, probably best for me to just take what we have and apply that to the list that I have here. I went through a little while ago and found all the makers in the in the various books, or at least the ones that I've had a chance to look through. I've drawn the Savage Sword. So let me go ahead and pull this up once again. So its meanings are war, savagery, strength, violence, brute force. Sword is a weapon of war, a metaphor for any kind of weapon one might wield. Savage sword is our basest nature, our predilection toward violence, and our shameful bloodlust. But it is also our strength to overcome obstacles and foes when we need to. It is the opposite of thought, strategy, or consideration. It is immediate and decisive, without hesitation or regard for consequence. The savage sword is the opposite of the revealing knife in most respects. In divination, some kind of conflict is imminent. Almost certainly blood will be shed. This can go either way. It might be a danger to the person in question, or it might be a recommendation that they must use violence or brute force to succeed. This card turn can also indicate strength or even a specific individual who is known for their physical prowess. So, this tells me not only about the who may be showing up, but also the nature of the ceremony a little bit. So, as part of advancing the second degree, there are going to be a couple of things that they do. There's a thing where they will have a device on this. Well, you're gonna get brought into the back of Alistair's shoe, and Elsie will be there. You are the presentor, and she is the presentee. Elsie is there. Alistair, of course, is there. As a reminder, Alistair, big fellow, well-dressed walrus. Walrus-headed. Kiona is there, whom I don't think there is a description of, but basically she... I kind of imagine her as sort of... wearing a lot of different sort of bits of cloth and knickknacks and stuff, basically, on her. As she does this. Now, let me see. Weaponry. A little early in the narrative, but sure, why not? So... you get, there is a, you do sort of hear as you're kind of setting up, for this, and they're sort of it's basically the back part of the of Alistair's shoe, as you know, there's an area where there are a lot of shoe boxes basically, but then there's kind of a cleared out, an area that's been cleared out, sort of where there were like tables and stuff. You sort of push those aside, and there's this sort of wider area, this space, where there's this ceremonial ceremony. There's a table. It's like a one-legged table. It's got a big sort of middle post in the middle around. It's like a restaurant table to an extent. Bar table, I should say. And it has atop it this what looks like a little fountain thing. It's this thing made of looks like it's made kind of sort of carved in stone. This stone carved little fountain. It's tall. It was put on the table. The table itself doesn't have the workings of the fountain underneath it. It's not that, you know.
Okay.
But it has little gargoyles carved into it. And when the ceremony begins, Alistair's going to activate it. Basically, he'll turn a sort of a knob, and it starts emitting these little geysers of what looks like fire.
Oh.
Little geysers, and a sort of a wick at the top, lights, because it is also a candle. And so, like, he does that. He turns on a few lamps, dims the house lighting a bit, so the proper ceremony things are set. He and Kiona then stand on opposite sides of the room. At this point, if you were to sort of draw a circle around the room, kind of, they try to stand at specific points. And there is also within this circle that has been formed, another little table to the side. It is kind of near where Kiona is standing, is next to where Kiona is standing. And have a few objects on them. Like a cloth and like a small knife. And so, as she stands there, and she will say, she'll stand up straight. She'll sort of, and she's kind of smiling as she says to you, as she will say unto you, Shaper Gamelon, present your item.
Of course. And then I guess what Shaw will have made is probably a metal girdle. And in addition to the metal work that she normally uses, there's some gear work in it that sort of spins around a little bit in a ticking to sort of have the element of grounding in time. And then it comes with a bag of like weights, like you would put on a dive belt, that you can hook to the bottom of it to sort of anchor you in the time. And so she'll have a beautiful box with the weights and then the girdle, and she'll present it to Elsie.
Okay. Just so I can make sure I got all of this. I'm going to say once again, halfway through my brain did a thing. It's a girdle with weights on it.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Does it have a particular function of some kind, or is it?
Well, it is the object that would anchor her in time.
Oh, that same one. Okay.
Because I have to have made a thing. Do you want me to roll the dice for the thing to make the thing so that we know that it's okay, or?
Yeah. We can. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So that'll be the thing. Okay.
That is the thing.
That is the thing. I didn't realize the thing was going to be the thing until this very moment when we're doing the thing. Well, I would only ask you to roll the dice now if you've already kind of had been able to sort it out. I don't want to necessarily make you have to like suddenly on the fly figure the thing out.
I mean,
if you don't.
I just would have to write down the ingredients. But I presume that she has ingredients. I guess it's just also my acrobat just crashed, so I have none of those.
She'll be able to help you get the stuff, and we'll do the die rolls later. We will presume that you have made this or a similar thing and are now presenting it.
I will make the rolls in roll 20 and note them later so that they will be there.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
So that being the case, then I'm just going to go ahead. Therefore, I'm going to draw one more card, just to sort of see how the how things are looking, just in general. Here, as she accepts it because she has to accept it and test it.
Right.
And so I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, this is interesting. It's looking encouraging, I think, on first glance. I have to read it again.
From the suit stick? What?
In my brain. Encouraging to whom? So
to the alpaca. That's to
it's
whom?
Encouraging to the alpaca. Yes. No, the alpaca is getting very excited right now. The blind guardian. Maybe why the alpaca is getting excited right now. That's his card number 16. Blind guardian. Which means safety, impartiality, serenity, blindness, challenges. The blind guardian watches over us like a protector. That's probably our door it guards. Because of its blindness, it confronts all the intruders equally. From the lowest vermin to the most powerful god, from the purest angel to the vilest demon, its blindness also confers a calmness. You'll never see the guardian worry or fret, nor will you see it eager or anticipatory. Those that seek what it guards, it is a difficult challenge. You cannot bribe or charm this guardian, and despite its blindness, or because of it, it is very difficult to fool or deceive. Although it can represent a challenge in divination arising before one can proceed, typically this card is a positive turn indicating safety or serenity. If some sort of authority figure or any judgment at all is involved, this card indicates that they can be counted on to be impartial. Rarely it suggests literal blindness involved. Okay. So, she will take the girdle, and she will perform a quick test as is needed. On this, she'll put it. She'll put it around. She'll put it on for a moment, and in so doing, as she does, she will she'll put it on as it is testing. She'll nod for a moment as she does some sort of little magic-y thing. She'll nod. She'll start to remove it. She will then pick up the cloth. And ask you to place your hands under it for a moment.
Bravely put my hands forward.
Are you prepared?
No.
You'll stop for a moment. Okay. When you're about to transition from one kind of maker to another kind of maker. When you're ready,
I'm
say the
ready.
word. All right. And then she extends her hands forward and asks you, as though for you to hand the cloth to her.
I do.
Okay. She will then sort of gesture and sort of nod for you. She's holding up the cloth. She just sort of nods for you to pick the dagger up.
Okay. I pick the dagger up.
And she holds the cloth up and will just basically sort of nod, say, now, how do I... My phrasing isn't going to be exact here. She's going to say, now all there is to complete the transition from the old to the new. She will hold the cloth forward, seemingly for you to cut through. Seems to be kind of what she seems to be.
Shaw, with great relief that nobody's asking her to cut off a pinky finger or something, that happily cuts through the cloth.
Yeah. This is only first to second degree. There's as you do so, she will smile and say, welcome anew, Crafter Gamelon. And Alistair and Kaona will clap. They will applaud. And Elsie will put the cloth down and then applaud. And then they will serve cake.
Yay, cake. What emotions does the cake bring?
Okay, so the cake... Stand by. So this is going to be the... let's see, going off our previous draw. Which we're pulling up here. Once again. This is the Cake of Serenity.
Cake of Serenity.
So I imagine it's like, and this is the cake that they bring out. That it's a very small cake, but it's like a little pond with its little icing pond with these sort of fondant ducks sailing around on it under a tree that appears to be a very carefully crafted tree on a little grassy field, little icing grassy field, basically. And the cake moves. It's kind of like watching a claymation thing. But it gives a sense of inner peace, I think. That seems to be what happens. Yeah, it's a sort of a. You get a few moments of that.
Okay. Shaw will be polite and thank everybody and, all the things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so, they basically are, hang around and chat, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And apparently, Kaona will tell you that Barristal was thinking about coming, but wasn't able to make it. But they send their regards.
Awesome. I will be completely gracious that was a thing that might have happened, even though it didn't. And I didn't know you knew Barristal. We haven't met very much.
They get around, yeah, and she'll tell you, yeah, they get around, they get down here from time to time. Sometimes when he's going to come down when he needs certain supplies, runs out of stuff, doesn't want to have to deal with sort of the game they're playing up in the bazaar.
Of course. Well, I should stop by and see him sometime. It would be a good person for me to know better as a blacksmith. That makes sense.
Certainly. Absolutely. Well, yeah. Apparently he kind of heard this was going down, he said, and so he just wanted me to convey his congratulations.
Well, if you see him before I do, tell him I said thank you.
Sure thing. And I think we have, at this point, we shall drift away from the ceremony. Now, there is one more item on our list.
There is.
And I have a question for you. Because there are a couple of ways we can tackle this. We can tackle this this invitation, the initial bit. We can tackle it tonight, or if you'd prefer, you can do it as a group activity. I'm good either way. How would you like to do this?
I don't think that I would bring the whole group, because the letter was written to me, and I wouldn't, especially because it's an invitation, I wouldn't like a worky invitation, a jobby job invitation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't bring everybody unless there was some indication. The letter is very vague, right? The letter says, your reputation precedes you. We have heard of your achievements and extend an invitation to apply to join our ranks. We seek to avail ourselves of the magical lore and wonder of the actuality, a goal that can be achieved only through cooperation of exceptional Vizsla. And we think you might be just such a Vizsla. If you have interest in meeting with us to learn more about our order, to see if we can work together to mutual benefit, please come to the address above on Thursday the 19th at 8 p.m. So I think that on Thursday the 19th, Shaw would go by herself, with the hope of maybe bringing her friends in later.
Okay. All right. So, do you want to take a quick 5-minute break before we dive into this part of it?
That sounds great.
Okay. We will be back in just a few minutes. We will see you shortly. We have returned. And we are about to follow this invitation. So what are we doing?
Well, I think Shaw's expectation is that, like, it's very nice for someone to say that she's an exceptional Vizsla, but she doesn't really think of herself as an exceptional Vizsla, a hard worker. But that's about it. So she presumes that there's going to be other people at this. So she gets ready like she's going to a social event. So she polishes up all of her metalwork that she wears, and she, puts her hair together really nice, and she heads out to this address with the intention of doing some kind of meet and greet.
Okay. You head up that way. There is totally not a void alpaca following you as you are heading in that direction.
Do I notice that there's totally not a void alpaca?
You absolutely
following?
notice that there is not there is not a fuzzy dark alpaca creature following you and occasionally peeping out of around corners and there's totally not a slight buzz of electricity in the air as they proceed to not follow you.
I totally don't pull an iron ring off my finger and electrocute it just a little bit and toss it over my shoulder without looking.
Yes, that will delay them. That will delay him a little bit. As you get there. You are heading, once again, as you're heading up from your mine. It's not too far to get where you are heading. It's in Fartown. It is, it's a little bit north of where 13 Station was. So it's 13 Station was just, in the Silver Hill neighborhood. So it's kind of a little further, just above that, there's a slightly bigger, wider road, and a little block or two in, sort of a little bit west of where 13 Station was, is this warehouse, not too far from the phantasmagorial cupcake place. Is this old, what looks like a big abandoned building. It's the look of a workhouse or a factory.
Okay.
That you will find yourself heading toward.
Does it have lights on in it?
There might be, there might be some. I'd say it's perhaps dusk-like right now. So there might be some dim light coming from within. You think?
Okay. All right. Well, Shaw never listened to My Favorite Murder, so she'll probably head directly on in, not realizing that this is how you get murdered by a serial killer.
Sure. Shouldn't be a problem. And I guess I'll draw a card at this point because there's just for flavor. Just for flavor. So that I can have that at the ready.
The card you have drawn is the adorable and kind fuzzy kitten.
That's right. The card I have drawn is the Hunter.
Oh, okay.
Which is,
not terrible.
Not far off. So its meanings are nature, death, conflict, survival, seeking a goal. I think we had this fairly frequently not too long ago. Mm-hmm. Just as a reminder, lonely soul pursuing prey with dogged tenacity. It's a perfect card for one seeking a goal. So I think as you approach, as you head in, you get this feeling. It's like whatever this is, I can't say where this feeling comes from necessarily, but the feeling you sort of get, it looks a little scary, but on getting inside, it looks a little warmer. They've put lights in here. Once you get past sort of the entrance where there are like some very sort of dusty conveyor belts and things, you get further in, and you see there's this big wide area. They're big sort of posts, pillars that hold up the roof of this place. And there's more to this place further back that they haven't shown yet, but there are these very internal dusty windows, celled windows, that lead into storage areas. It's hard to say. Overall, however, the way that this place looks, is the not a lot of the light made it out to the outer windows, probably on purpose, because it's one of those things where to get in you kind of had to lift sort of a latch. They just sort of reach through and lift a latch. So this is like probably, you don't know if they're supposed to be here or not.
Got it.
But it's one of those things where this area isn't patrolled or anything. So it's kind of in between areas, major neighborhoods. So it's one of those things where it's like, let's go play in the old factory type things, basically. There are some large bins you haven't had a chance to look in yet, but there's sort of a couple along the walls that you can't quite see in the from the light just yet. But you see a group of people. There are about 24 people, you think.
Oh, okay.
Kind of hanging out in sort of the middle of the factory where they've got these lights, either that kind of set up, they brought in a couple of like lights on poles that just are sort of standing there. And then some people have sort of personal lights, and then they're like on stools where they're like candles and lanterns and stuff around. You will see that they're sort of centered around, the group is kind of centered around these three people. Sort of an older man with a sort of a balding head. There's a tall, broad-shouldered man with dark hair and wearing a cape. There's a short woman with white hair. And those are sort of these three people that individuals are clustered around. Before you get right up to the main group, you will see, you will hear a voice as someone detaches from the group and approaches you as you're coming up and say, oh, Shah Gamelon, isn't it?
Yes.
And you see this individual whom you will recognize. It's an individual whom, the way that I'm describing them, because they are not described for me, is they've got sort of very close cropped hair. They've got a tan complexion. They're wearing a sort of an army green long coat, with they've got something that looks like a kind of a sort of a monocle device thing that is currently flipped up. And they've got a few, sort of metal accoutrements on them. And this person you recognize as Barristal. This is someone you actually also, I will say, you kind of knew them before the war, but you didn't know them very well. You remember that.
Okay.
And you knew that they made weapons. It was like their primary gig. So they will come up, sort of hand extended, and say, "Oh, congratulations, by the way. I heard you got you made Crafter."
I did. I got your message of congratulations via, I've forgotten her name, but I would remember in game.
No worries. Keona.
Keona, via Keona. And it was very appreciated.
Good, excellent. Good, excellent. I'd hoped that I'd hoped the message had gotten through. Got rather a lot going on, as you can see. They say, gesturing toward the group. Would you care to join us for a little bit? We've got a few things we would, I think, that they'd like to talk to you about.
Oh, sure. Of course, that's why I'm here.
Excellent. And as you head over, you'll see the crowd sort of quiets a little bit as they sort of step aside. As they're sort of chatting about various things. So the older man sort of limps forward a little bit, and will nod to you, and just sort of look over at Barristal. This is Shah Gamelon, yes. Yeah, and Barristal will nod. Excellent. You come very highly recommended. We've heard a little bit about some of your exploits recently. I'm Wilde.
Oh.
And he gestures to the gentleman in the cape. He says, "This is Kirarik." And Paredthi, he says, gesturing to the woman with white hair. So you've a bit of an interest in our little club.
Well, she'll pull out the invitation and be like, I got your invitation.
Right.
And that's about all that I know.
Have you heard anything about us before?
I have not.
Yeah. And I will say the third hand did come up once in game, but I don't believe Shah was present when they did, if I remember right. So, and the woman with white hair will sort of come forward as well. So Paredthi will come forward and she'll say, she'll nod, and she will say, yes, so we are a mutual aid society. Those who commit to and become part of our group will all work toward the same goal till we have either achieved that goal or we decide to set it aside. Communally, we meet about once a month. And say, if this is now, we've had a few things that we've done, little projects we've taken on in the past. You may or may not have heard about. So essentially that we decided at one point to try to learn a pact. There was a pact that had been lost for some time with certain green nature spirits. We figured that one out. We've found a few objects of power. Most of these are to expand our knowledge and reach somewhat. Is this something you would be interested in?
I mean, I do like to be helpful. And I am also interested in expanding my knowledge. I guess perhaps it depends on what sort of pacts you're interested in uncovering and what sort of objects of power you're interested in studying.
Of course.
There are some things that I'm less than interested in pursuing within Saturnine. It's just a personal preference. So maybe if you could tell me more of the sort of, like, what are you interested in working on now?
She'll nod. Well, right now, we are on a project, this is probably a long-term one, to find Book M.
Oh.
You've heard of it?
Only whispers.
Should any of us find Book M, all of the members shall have access to its contents.
See.
It's, I know some think of it as something of a legend, but there have been stirrings recently that it might be about somewhere. And so we thought it would be good to see if we can find it and share its knowledge.
Well, that is very interesting. When you say... Sorry, go ahead.
Should you be interested in joining our group, we do generally have a trial period during which we would give you a little bit of a task. Which you don't have to do alone, by the way. You can bring friends in on this if you wish.
Okay.
But, when completed, then that's evaluated and all that. And if the trial period works out, then you would take a pledge of fidelity, essentially stating that you'll do your best to work toward the common goal of the group and share any benefits gained from the success of that goal. The ritual that is involved in taking the pledge, and she says, sort of looking over again at Oliel, it just ensures that everyone bound by it, all of us, are telling the truth when we speak of such things.
Oh. Okay.
And that is the meat of it.
So I understand, and she'll turn the invitation over and look at just her name on it and say that you say that I could invite my friends to help me with this task.
Yes.
I do work very well with my friends. If we were all to work together and we as an organization were to achieve this goal and find this book, would they have access to the secrets in that book as well?
And at that point, the big guy in the cape will say, "Well, no, you're not. Well, of course, you're not. You're not bound to keep them from anyone else. No, you just have to make sure that it gets shared with the rest of us."
Okay. Well, and she'll kind of look around the room like, suddenly just really super awkward, and she'll reach up and sort of adjust the buckle on her face piece, making sure it's all the way across. Say, I think I would be interested in a trial period for us to sort of trial each other out.
Oh, and she sees she kind of Parente kind of will notice your nervousness a little. She'll say, "Here, would you come with us for just a moment? Perhaps we can talk without so much buzz around."
Of course.
And she will lead you toward the sort of the more storage area, and she and Kirarek and Oleald will come along, because there's a lot of still cross chatter, and as you're heading toward that, sort of more over to a place where you can it's a little quieter. It's a little darker, but but you can still see. They're bringing lights with them, so it's not they're keeping they're not like coming around behind you or anything. Just so you know,
they're not about to murder me in a closet.
They're not expressing murderous stance or anything. But they will say, at this point, the old man, as you're sort of walking, will say, Your friends are very important to you, I see."
They are. They're my family.
That's good. That is very good. It is something that can be easy to lose track of when you are, if you become single-minded in pursuit of your goals. I learned that the hard way.
Oh.
Kirarek will just sort of look at him, just sort of, the tall guy will sort of look at him, look back at you, and he'll just sort of mouth the word, "Vance." And
Shaw will nod knowingly.
And Redthay will say, "We don't want to pressure you. Understand. So, understand, it's if you want to, if you would like to help, you can walk away from this place and just forget about it if you wish. But I think that if it is your bond with your friends that is truly of import with you, we can give you all the time you need to decide if this is right for you and if this will truly be in their aid. And it is important to think upon such things." And as she sort of leads you to sort of, and you're near sort of that back area, and she stops, you're close enough that and they'll just sort of you're very close to the sort of the back window, and she looks to the two others and she says, "Let's give her a minute. Just give her a minute to think." And they will step away for just a moment, just right through the door, which is right next to you now, to the back room, carrying one of them sort of carrying their light source, and you can now see through the window. This is sort of, just sort of furtively, as you can see through the segmented internal window into that storage area. And what you see in that storage area tells you what kind of factory this was. It is a little dark and creepy. Once again, it's like you're sort of hunting through the underbrush to an extent, except indoors. But you see in a bunch of bins, you see on a table, you see on shelves, thousands and thousands of doll parts. Many of them are stained, dirty, partially burned. Some are lying about on the floor. You can see some of the bins that were actually along the side of that you walked past now. And you can see a little bit from here, from this angle, their contents, and they are also filled with dolls and doll parts. This is an abandoned doll factory. And believe it or not, he says, stepping slightly to the side of the fourth wall, the source material says so as well.
Oh my god, that's so good. I think that I pick up whatever the light source is that's been left for me, and I just kind of like spin around and look for that vision of the old dusty dolls and put it together, and I just immediately come after them and say, yes. If you won't ask me to choose between you and my friends, then yes.
And at this point, and they will smile. Kirarik, the tall guy, will once again just sort of chuckle and say, "Of course not. That would totally stunt our membership, wouldn't it? We had that kind of policy." And Redthay nods and will say, "Very good, very good." Excellent. We'll tell you what leads we have here before we join the others. What they will tell you as they're talking is that they're sort of, as they're chatting about this, you get the impression that their belief is the ability to find trusted and capable allies just strength rather than weakness, basically, is sort of their deal here. Just like working together can accomplish more than they can as individuals. That's sort of their motto. So they have several leads, but the one that they are going to give to you that they'd like you to see if you might want to track down. So let me see. And Prezi will sort of take, as you're sort of looking sort of again out at the group and sort of standing amongst the dolls, she'll ask, "Have you heard about the Library of the Cortege?"
Have I heard about the Library of the Cortege?
Yeah, you've heard a little bit about it. You think it's this thing that looks kind of like a funeral procession. You've heard that referred to. You don't. I don't think you know anything about it much.
Okay.
But it is a thing, this funeral procession looking thing that sort of wanders through Saturnine and occasionally stopping at places where people have died and talking to people. That, I think, is probably the extent of what you've heard at this point. They will tell you that so if you sort of indicate you've kind of heard of it, they'll and the old man will again say, they'll say, "Well, so it is sort of a library. They collect the stories of people who have passed away, but they also collect books, important books owned by people who have died, and we think it's possible that Book M might be in that library. We don't know for certain, obviously, but we think at the very least the library might contain a clue to finding it. So, what we would ask is that if you can find the library, it is mobile. We don't know where it is right now, but if you can locate it. If you can find it and find out they have the book, and if not, find out if they've at least have clues to its location.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. Yes, if you can locate the library, that would be. And find that information out. That would be helpful for us to at least allow us to eliminate that as a possibility.
Okay. All right. I can do that.
And they'll give a quick description of what they know. They know that their belief is that the procession is led by people who are dead.
Okay.
So the dead, basically, capital D, the dead. So it has sort of a funerary look to it, with this person leading up front and these this big top-hatted fellow leading up front. They say, and a number of sort of funerary wagons. And that's sort of what you'd be needing to keep an eye out for.
Okay. Well, I'll do my best. We have some tasks that we need to take care of that are a little bit time critical, but interestingly, some of those also have to do with the dead. So maybe I can wrap these things all together.
Oh, wow, very good. Very good. Excellent. Well, if you can, and just feel free to get back to any of us once you've had time. We only officially meet once a month, but we can, of course, you can feel free to come to any of us. We'll give you our cards.
Okay.
And I believe you know a few people here.
Yes. Is it?
At least one or
Do
two.
you always meet on the 19th, or do you always meet on the third Thursday?
It's the third Thursday usually.
Very well.
Yeah. And they'll sort of lead you back to the group where you can hang out and chat.
Mm-hmm.
If you so desire, because they do not have cake, but
No cake. What?
I
Okay,
know,
well,
right?
next time Shaw's bringing a cake.
It's fair, it's understandable. Yeah, they just sort of so Barristal will chat with you a little bit. Barristal will also introduce you to another maker. There's another maker here if you would like to
Oh,
meet
awesome!
them.
Absolutely.
That maker's name is Garrett. From what he tells you, he runs a. I'm thinking. Let me go ahead and just double check on the description before I create one. This is one of those things. Yeah, I don't think they provide one. Let me say, just sort of a bigger fellow with a big sort of black curly beard.
Okay.
Garrett apparently is co-owner of a dreamery up in the Fade. And he'll give you his card. The business is called Olamic Dreams.
Okay.
And apparently they sell alchemical stuff.
All right.
And sort of dream-related specializations. They specialize in dream-related stuff, basically. Various kinds of aromantic things and what have you. Basically you get makers together, they talk shop, and that's kind of what happens.
Yep.
I think I'm gonna draw one more card just to see if something comes up on its own. You can ask about whatever you like, but I just want to check something to see if a particular subject comes up out of morbid curiosity. Really? Okay.
Did you pull the card that was just titled with the subject?
Close. Not sure. Let me sort of. Let me go ahead. I gotta interpret these things, you know. The card I've pulled is the Forbidden Game. So I think the subject is coming up. Yeah. Let me do my due diligence here. The Forbidden Game means danger, intellect, strategy, balance. The temptation to partake in the game is strong, but you know you shouldn't. It's dangerous. It's forbidden. It's far more than it seems. It may appear to be a simple diversion, a pastime, but it's so much deeper, so much more engrossing, and so much more addicting. Some have lost their very souls to its intricacies. It's not just that people want to win, although that's part of it. It's the game's complexities that draw them in. Every move is a colossal undertaking. The game is more intricate than the real world that it simulates. That's the impossible thing. The game is bigger on the inside than the outside. It's bigger than the world in which it is played. In divination, there is a threat here, but it is one that can be overcome with cleverness and strategy. This cleverness needs to take into account the balance of all involved factors, which can be daunting, as sometimes those factors are difficult to see. Barristal at some point is going to ask you if you can remember what you were doing before the war.
Oh.
Because they kind of remember you doing something. Or you're working on some kind of a project. But they can't remember what it was.
I see. Well, it's a bit of an uncomfortable subject. My memories of before the war are not great, and not very clear. But I have come across some of the projects that I was working on. It just seems that somebody else took them and did them. And I think I may have not planned to complete them. So it's... Yeah. I don't think I was working on things that were very much for the benefit of the actuality.
Huh.
Or that were dangerous in some way, and, well, someone finished them anyway.
Interesting.
How about you?
Well, that is the thing, is that the reason I bring it up is because I seem to recall hearing that there was a project I was offered, that I turned down. And I thought I had heard something along the lines of that either you were going to be asked to work on it, or you or someone else you worked with was going to be asked to work on it. But I never found out how that ended. Me personally, I don't get too involved in sort of various intricate interpoliticking things. I'm very much freelance. I'm very much my own person. And so that's why I didn't want to get anywhere near anything that kind of sticky. Also, yes, anytime, not to say anything ill on present company, but you always have to look twice when shall we say an up and coming Vance asks you to start building things for them. You know what I'm saying?
Do you remember who the Vance was?
I think it was Ruzik. I think it was Ruzik.
Ruzik.
Yeah. I believe that was where the contract was originally going to be coming from, and I didn't even look. I didn't want to get involved. Aroshka Ruzik.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
she's not a Vance anymore.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I'd heard word she was back, but I hadn't heard much aside from that.
She's lovely. She's lovely Visley. You might find that she's a very different person than she was.
Ah. Oh, that's a relief. Not that I really had anything personally against her before, you understand. But it seemed this was... she kept... my understanding was that from what I'd heard, things I'd heard, they were putting more and more things onto her shoulders. They were trying to tout her as someone who was going to save the world or something. I'm not sure exactly what what was going on with that.
Do you know who they is? Do you mean the Vance?
The Vances, I think. Yes.
See.
I mean, Oleald might know better, but but he doesn't like to talk about it. Yeah, it's just that there's so much politicking that a lot of them do, and then just sort of outside that, my understanding of her reputation, she was quite remarkable, but also had a great deal of ambition, and she was working on some kind of grand spell to try to solve some kind of problem. See, this is where it begins to go. It gets a little too close to the time, you know?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
The grand spell.
But unfortunately, the details have been unfortunately, I do not have the details any longer. But
I understand.
Yeah.
Memories being what memories are.
Yeah. But just was something that, well, goodness knows. But I was just sort of wary of that project because I was starting to worry about existential issues.
Existential issues?
Well,
I presume you mean more about existing, not perhaps Sartre and Simone Bolivar.
Well, a bit of both. Bit of both, as I understand it. There are like certain half-worlds I hear about that you can go out to and try to cross barriers of reality, but it's absolutely not good for you. From what I hear, like I said, I try to keep to. It's an interesting challenge to try to, shall we say, deal with things that should not be, that otherwise can't be harmed. That's, of course, what I try to do more often than not. But sometimes just one has to be certain which side of the line one is standing on, if you take my meaning.
And I do. So the contract that you were being approached for was to go to one of these half-worlds.
Yes.
Cross over.
Yes, I believe so. Or she was going to. I'm not sure. The details again, not completely in there, but they're somewhat in there.
Right.
But it did involve a sort of a crossing over of, shall we say, some barriers. It's some folks are easier for some folks than others. That's me. I would go right up to the barriers to see if I can study what's beyond it, but not actually cross the damn thing.
The edge, yes.
Oh, yes, the edge. That's right, it was the edge, wasn't it? That one in particular. The Celestial Stair. That was the place.
Let's see. Did you go?
No, I did not. There was rather a lot. As I recall, there was a lot we had to worry about at that point. There was rumblings of war starting, and of course, when times are like that, I get very busy.
Understandably. Well, thank you. Sometimes I should reintroduce you to Aroshka.
I think that would be very interesting.
Yes. I'm sure that she'd love to re-meet you.
Well, I should be very glad to hear that she's fallen on the right side of things.
I think so.
Oh, good. And the conversation will continue, and they'll talk about just sort of very glad to see that you're all the progress that's been happening. Barristal still has connections at the guild, at the guild house. So he kind of was wondering about, different, if they were going to be seeing any more patents from you, that kind of thing. And sort of they'll talk about things that have come through there recently.
Okay.
Different devices and what have you. Shop
Awesome.
talk.
Yeah.
Usual
Perfect. I will definitely engage in shop talk. I will not mention Gilda by name, but I'll just kind of try and leave that open so that I have somebody inside the guild to go to, so that I'm not a complete outcast.
That's fair.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
Absolutely fair. All right. And when you leave, there is totally not a fluffy alpaca, pygmy alpaca waiting for you. All right. Well, we have. I think we have hit our point. As we've now, I think, hit all the bullet points. Was there anything else you wanted to look into or take care of?
No, I mean, the only other thing that needs to be taken care of is my appeturance.
Yes.
Which is basically at some point, and I mean, there doesn't even need to be a scene for this, but at some point, maybe in Shaw's pursuit of information about the library of the cortege, she's probably going to stumble within a library and study about the nature of connections between people.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of that, it's going to sort of weave into her spell making in some way. But which normally this appeturance is for family, but for her friends are her family.
And I think that you've very well sort of demonstrated that also even just in what we've done tonight. And so that I think also is going to complete your arc.
Awesome.
So that will be dealt with. But yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And yeah, you can totally get that appurtenance. That whatever it is out of that.
Appeturance? I don't. There needs to be a better pronunciation guide for this game.
They love words.
Appeturance.
They absolutely love words. Into this game, they are very fond.
So that will make Shah Gamelon an established gallant of the Order of Makers with the names of my family.
Yeah, very good, very good. If you want, you can also you can change the wording on it if you wish. If you wanted to say of my friends or what have you, if you wanted to do that. But it's you can keep it your family if you want, however you want to phrase it. But yeah, we can tinker with the title. Appurtenance. Okay. Anyway.
Appurtenance? Did you find the official pronunciation guide?
Well, let me tell you. I will tell you, just as far as my personal thing is concerned, my belief is that by and large, when we're not talking about, being nice to people, which I think one should always do, as far as, when especially when addressing people of particular cultures, they speak languages, et cetera, but outside of that, by and large, I believe that pronunciation is made up, because language is made up. And it's one of those things where, because that's how language changes, it drifts. People say it differently. And so I never wish to slavishly hold to anything. But that said, I do appreciate and try to look for what is commonly popular, which is what dictionaries tell us. And this word, apparently, according to Google, is
appurtenance.
Appurtenance.
Awesome. Appurtenance.
That's what Google is saying at me. But yeah, it's a thing where it's I prefer. There was a time when I worried. I don't worry anymore. That's all I'll say about it.
There was a time when I was getting a degree in botany and had to
Yeah.
learn all the Latinate names of plants.
Oh, yeah.
And my teacher taught me this wonderful thing, which is whenever somebody corrects your Latinate pronunciation, because it's not a real language anyway, you can just nod and say, "Oh yes, I used to pronounce it that way too."
Nice. Yeah, and I mean, there's this. I could get into this whole thing about power dynamics and everything that the English have done over the centuries, but I'm not
Oh my
going
goodness,
to.
yes.
Yeah. As
colonialism, blah blah blah.
yeah. There's so much. There's so much colonialism in the quote unquote correct pronunciations. But that said, I think we're good. Was there anything else you wanted to cover?
No, that is all the things.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you so much for going through that incredibly long list of incredibly long backlog of side
well,
session
we needed
material.
to do it. We absolutely needed to do it, and I'm very glad we did.
Awesome.
Very cool. So we have come to the end of our time, and so the time has come for me to ask: do you believe during this session that Shah received any joy or any despair?
Oh, I think she definitely. I mean, this was a very joy-filled session for Shah. Like, I found the group that I've been looking for since the beginning of this whole thing. I got to pet a fuzzy void alpaca, a totally not void alpaca.
Yes.
I achieved a new level of maker. Absolutely. Like if it's a choice between those two things, she definitely got her joy.
All right. Okay, well, then all that is left is our outro. So feel free to tell us where we can find you, and any other final thoughts you want to let us know.
Well, let's see. My name's Djinnaya, and you can find me on Twitter at Djinnaya. And I'm not doing any other online gaming other than this game, because this game is awesome and gaming online is hard to fit into my life. This is such a great side session, and I'm so excited to kind of go back to playing with the group and be able to bring this stuff back in, because we don't have 20,000 other leads we're trying to follow, so yeah. But I'm excited. I'm really excited. I'm excited about my new appurtenance, and I'm hoping to do some work on the side. I think I can make a low-level object of power actually without any dice rolls at level 2, and so I have all these keys that we collected together, and I think I want to make something for all of my friends to kind of symbolize our groupness.
Cool.
So, yeah. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're great.
Thank you. So are you. Thank you so much. This was awesome. And I am glad we were able to get this these things sorted, because I will say basically I've often referred to the running of this game, my running of this game, as a three-legged toad race, because I sort of half hop, half amble along as I try to catch up in all of the literature, and I'm getting closer. But it does mean sometimes between that and ADHD, things get sometimes take a while for me to get to. So I'm very glad when we can do it, and actually take care of those things. But as for me, who am I? I am Jim. You can find me at OtherDoc on both Twitch and Twitter. My website is jimyesthatjim.com, where you can find my Geek Observation podcast and links to my various other podcasts, audio dramas, writings, and such. I have links down below to my website, Twitter, YouTube channel, and various other things. On Friday nights, I am over on Wandering Society, playing in their Dresden Files campaign, playing the nicest ever arcane troubleshooter, who absolutely is too nice for his job and is finally starting to crack under the pressure. So very interested to see where things go there. And very soon, within the next couple of weeks, we're going to be back to our regular Invisible Sun games here in this time slot. So keep your eyes peeled for that. In the meantime, I do have signups running right now. for a short campaign that we're going to be doing. Let me see if I've got the appropriate command in there. Yay! I've got signups running for right now a game I'm calling Void's End. It is a space noir story I'm using mechanics from 3 different games. I'm sort of kit bashing together to do it. It's a GM-less game is at its core, a game called Dirty Secrets, which I've run on this channel before. And it sort of flips the usual dynamic. There's one PC, one investigator, and everyone else is a communal storyteller authority who's kind of throwing noir tropes at them, basically. And so we're using that. We're using Durance to create a planet far away that this investigator will be trying to figure out figure out who is responsible for various crimes on. And it is a short campaign that right now I'm planning to stream. I got to see what happens as far as things go, because I sometimes will, just before I pick the cast, I may decide not to stream it just for safety purposes. Or if it's like, okay, this is going to be too much mentally. I'm always keeping an eye on my bandwidth these days, or trying to, so that I can be better to myself than I was when I started this channel. But probably will be streamed. That's what I'm hoping for. Starting in late April. We'll be looking forward. We'll be looking for players for that. And so, if there's any interest in playing that, feel free to go down below, click on RPG sign up, or go to jimmyyesthatgym.com, and click on game sign up. As always, beginners are welcome. I've also got a link in chat if you want to go directly to it. Do look into that. And that, I think, shall be all for this evening. I may do a raid of some kind when we hit the end card. So I'll look into that once we get there. But in the meantime, folks, thank you all very much for watching. Take care, and we will catch you next time. Farewell.